Hey guys, and welcome to the first of my Destiny 2 YouTube videos. I haven't done YouTube in a very long time, so bear with me as I find my feet again. In this video, I figured it'd be a good time to talk about the roles you can get on all the weapons in the Recaster, seeing as all the engrams are now available to obtain. If you have the Umbral Enhancement free perk on your Recaster, it makes grinding the weapons and getting their final perk that you want all that much easier. I figured we would go through these in order, so let's get started. The first weapon that we will be covering is the False Promises Auto Rifle. While not the most competitive or PvE-oriented gun, it can certainly roll some decent perks to help it. In the barrel column, you have access to quite a few range-increasing perks, but due to its low stability and handling, I wouldn't recommend full bore or extended barrel, as it already has quite a lot of range as it is. Although the latter, extended barrel, helps with recoil direction, which you wouldn't really need on mouse and keyboard. However, if you're using controller, you might want to consider extended barrel. I would say that the best barrel perk all round, though, would be Hammer Force Rifling. This increases the range by a nice 10, whilst not affecting any other stats in any negative way. The second column has a few good perks in the magazine slot. Ricochet Rounds is a very nice overall perk, which helps with range and stability. However, if you were just taking this into the fire that is Crucible, I would recommend High Caliber Rounds, just because the extra flinch is nice to have. The final two columns are where the weapon really shines. You need to have good perks in these columns, otherwise the weapon is not that great. In the first slot, you have access to the perk Killing Wind, one of the best new perks they have added onto weapons in quite a long time, increasing your handling, weapon range and mobility, all for a simple kill. I really hope to see this perk on more guns like hand cannons in the future. You also have access to Dynamic Sway Reduction. With its recent buff to stability, the longer you're holding down the trigger, it is a monster for Crucible, as you've probably have guessed from the 600 rounds per minute auto rifles that are plaguing Crucible right now. These two perks are more suitable for Crucible though. However, if you're looking for something to take this into PvE, you can't go wrong with Subsistence to constantly reload on ad kills, or even Feeding Frenzy for the lightning fast reload on 2 or more stacks. Now for the final column, you have a lot of flexibility in your choices. It's really up to preference here. Rampage and Swashbuckler are really good for Crucible and PvE, as it makes this weapon hit like a truck, while perks like Eye of the Storm and Zen Moment have little effect in PvE and are more suitable for PvP. However, I personally would say that Rampage is the best perk here for this slot. The weapon already hits like a truck, and increasing your damage after kills is probably going to help with that. And in Crucible, if you can get 2 Rampage stacks, if you're lucky enough, this thing will kill very quickly, and will probably catch a few people off guard. Now for the second weapon, the Hollow Words Fusion Rifle. This gun actually caught me by surprise. Being in the precision archetype of fusion rifles, it boasts a nice charge time inherently, while having options to decrease the charge time even further in the charge time masterwork, which is what I would recommend for this weapon. It doesn't have a lot of choice in terms of perks, as I would say a lot of the perks are useless here, except around 4 of them. But even then, it is a fusion rifle, and that limits the usability as a whole. In the barrel column, just go for Hammer Force Rifling. The nice 10 to range is all you need on this weapon. In the magazine column, you do have a few choices actually. For my controller players out there, Particle Repeater is a nice choice, increasing your stability by 10. While for mouse and keyboard users, Projection Fuse is the way to go, increasing your range again by 10. In the first perk column, Quick Draw is very nice, as with a charge time masterwork, you could really catch some people in Crucible off guard, especially if they're rushing you down with a shotgun. However, the perk I would recommend here is, of course, Killing Wind, starting to sound like a bit of a broken record at this point. The perk is so strong on this weapon, increasing the range by a truckload makes this very, very deadly in Crucible. And finally, for PvE, Feeding Frenzy is your only choice here. However, I would still choose Killing Wind in PvE over Feeding Frenzy. For the final slot, my personal choice is Unrelenting. Multi-kills with this weapon trigger health regen. While a niche in Crucible, as it could be tougher to get multi-kills with, in PvE it's a bit of a lifesaver, literally. It requires 3 kills in total to trigger, and even less if you kill a major or ultra, which is very helpful in those high ad activities, and strikes as well, and obviously other things in the game. I would definitely say this weapon could be better, lacking in damage perks and whatnot. However, I would say pick it up, as it could still surprise you. The best thing to do with weapons in Destiny is to try them. You could like the feel of them, and if you don't have to use them anymore, but you can at least say you got a good roll. Now for the edge-focused Umbral Engram. Firstly, I'll be covering the Whispering Slap, or the Surfboard Bow. As a lover of bows in this game, the weapon was disappointing. When I first saw it, I was hoping for the new Kinetic Precision Archetype bow, as the only one we had came out during Forsaken and it's being sunset in November. This weapon is in the lightweight archetype. Having very little base accuracy, it needs all the help it can get from the perks. However, it has a very good draw time sitting at a base 612. For the first column, there are some nice choices here to decrease draw time, but with a little accuracy you need to increase that as a priority. The two choices here are Polymer String, which increases the accuracy by 5 but decreases the draw time by 10. This is the best perk. However, if you're unlucky and happen to get Natural String, which increases the accuracy by 5, that'll do nicely. For the arrow column, the only perk you want is Fiberglass Arrow Shaft, which increases accuracy by a huge 15. Straight Fletchling will also do nicely too, increasing the accuracy by 10. Now, for the main perks, being a bow, and being in the lightweight archetype, you want to decrease the draw time even further with Archer's Tempo. This is the best perk in this slot. However, the bow boasts Killing Wind, something we haven't seen on a bow before. So, this could be something to consider, something that you may want to try. Now finally, in the last column, you have a good few perks. For PvE particularly, you've got Demolitionist for the decreased grenade cooldown with every kill. You've also got Swashbuckler for more overall damage. Kill a thrall with your melee, and you've got 5 times Swashbuckler to go on a rampage with. Now, for PvP particularly, you will want Opening Shot. Opening Shot and Archer's Tempo is the best PvP role, and in the hands of a good player, it could be quite scary. It is still a bow. That you have to take into consideration. Finally, for the Masterwork, you will want draw time or accuracy. If you think the bow needs more accuracy when you're using it, then you have that Masterwork at your disposal with an extra 10 in the stat. If you use the bow and you think the accuracy is fine and you hit shots like a god, you can use a draw time Masterwork to help you even further. Temptation's Hook. One of the best looking swords and most fun swords in Destiny 2. For anyone that played Destiny 1, this is Boltcaster as a legendary. It has a very cool gimmick of your heavy attack shooting out a bolt of lightning across the map. It sticks to an area and does area of effect damage. It is incredibly fun in PvP when you're throwing that bolt of lightning across the map and you're killing somebody unsuspectedly. But that isn't to say it isn't good in PvE too. Whilst it is not as good as its counterpart, which I will discuss later, it's still good. Let's have a look at the perks, shall we? Like most swords, you want Jagged Edge in that first slot. While it decreases the overall ammo capacity of the sword, it decreases the impact by 10, which is what you want on a sword when you're going on your murderous chopping sprees. Whilst any perk can work in the second column, Swordmaster's Guard is the best choice here, as it increases the rate at which your sword's special right-click attack charges. This, coupled with the new Lucent Blade mod, whilst you have an Arc mod equipped for the secondary effect, allows you to really spam the heavy attack in PvE. In the first main perk slot, the only thing you want is Relentless Strikes. Rapidly landing 3 hits with this sword will grant you ammo. You need this in conjunction with Jagged Edge's lower ammo count. And finally, in the last column, Surrounded could be quite nice for those close quarter PvE engagements, or for just bossing, really, which is what swords are for. Vorpal increases your damage against bosses and your light and heavy attacks, and you can't go wrong with that. This engram I have been excited to talk about, as it contains the best 2 new weapons they added in Season of Arrivals. I'm talking about the Arrival-focused Umbral engram. We'll be talking about the Cold Denial first. This pulse rifle is incredibly awesome. With the buff to high-impact pulse rifles, this weapon type became very good. With incredible stats across the board and an awesome perk pool to boot, this weapon can easily become many other people's favourite. As a high impact, it has a huge base range of 61. Coupled with perks such as Full Bore, Extended Barrel or Hammerforce Rifling in the first column, it can reach ridiculous ranges of murder. Whilst Full Bore does lower the stability a bit, I believe the lowered stability could be managed with its lower rate of fire. The magazine perks are dependent upon your barrel perks. You're going to want Ricochet rounds for the stability increase if you're using Full Bore, or high caliber rounds for the extra flinch if you're using Hammerforce or Extended Barrel. Killing Wind, did I mention Killing Wind? Yes, this gun has it. The only 2 good perks in the first main column are Killing Wind, funny that, and Feeding Frenzy. If you enjoy this weapon for PvE, why not try Feeding Frenzy? It could be decent, and at times 2 snack, it's faster than Outlaw. But for PvP, Killing Wind turns the tide, and turns this weapon into a true monster of deadly proportions. Just watch this clip. See, this weapon destroys. In the second slot, you will want either Swashbuckler, like I had, or Multi-Kill Clip. I have not been fortunate enough to get one with Multi-Kill Clip and Killing Wind, but Swashbuckler will definitely fill that void until I get one. I have nothing else to say about the perks on this weapon, other than the ones that I suggested are the ones that you should go for. You must grind this pulse rifle out before the season's over, as it will be incredibly, incredibly strong when more and more players come to the game and they don't have it. They'll be wondering what the hell killed them so quickly. But you will decimate your foes in PvE and PvP with this weapon. Right, as we are now 6 or 7 weeks into the season, you have probably heard of or obtained the Falling Guillotine Sword. With the same gimmick as the Dark Drink Exotic Sword from Destiny 1, which is being able to spin rapidly with your heavy attack, this has quickly become a community-loved weapon. The sword boasts the highest DPS in the game currently for any heavy weapon, and if it was reasonable to go up and sword every raid boss in the game, I'm sure everyone would be doing so. There is only one role that you want for this sword for maximum DPS destruction. The first column must have Jagged Edge for the plus 10 impact. The second column must contain Swordmaster's Guard for the faster recharge rate of your heavy attack. And finally, the last two columns must contain Relentless Strike for the ammo regeneration as your heavy attack is charging, and Whirlwind Blade in the final slot for huge damage increases when spinning around like a madman. This sword, I don't think anyone saw coming in terms of DPS. When the trailer first launched, everyone was so excited because they thought the exotic swords were returning, but the fact that they made this into a legendary weapon simply solidified its place in many PvE loadouts. And if you're gonna be a jerk in PvP, please don't use it on me. For the remainder of this video, I will not be discussing these 5 engrams, as they contain weapons that have been brought back from previous DLCs or seasons within Destiny 2 from the past year and a half. However, these 2 engrams contain 2 weapons from Destiny 2's Year 1, when random rolls were not a thing, and the first of these weapons is the Ikelos SMG in the CQC-focused Umbral engram. When primaries were the main focus of Destiny 2 during the unfortunate Destiny 2 Year 1, this weapon was incredible. Everybody used it, and it was a staple in most loadouts, whether it was PvE or PvP. As an aggressive frame submachine gun, this weapon has a huge base range stat, and can be increased even further if you so choose. The first column has so many good perks that benefit this weapon greatly. Small bore for increased range stability, hammer forge for just increased range, full bore for huge range increase at the cost of some stability, and extended barrel for increased range and recoil direction at the cost of handling. I would recommend hammer forged or extended barrel. Hammer forged just increases the range by 10, whilst extended increases the range by the same, but with the added recoil direction increase, all that for the cost of handling, which isn't that bad on this SMG, as it has a huge base handling stat of 73. In the second column, this is where things get a bit interesting. The magazine options. There's only 2 that you want, Seraph rounds or Accurized rounds, or maybe, if you're on controller and you're struggling with the stability, steady rounds. If you are fortunate like myself, I have got Accurized and Seraph rounds in the same column. Seraph rounds for the time being is the best choice, as it inherently increases the range more than Accurized does. This is a hidden stat increase. However, if you are like me and you are worried that they will change that at some point, Accurized might be the way to go. There are no other perks that stand out here. You could do better than the other perks other than the 3 that I mentioned. For the first perk column, all the perks are viable. For PvE, where most people will use this weapon, Subsistence is quite good for the constant reloading of your magazine as you're killing trash mobs, whilst Threat Detector and Grave Robber are very good for quick reloads on the fly. For PvP, however, Dynamic Swear Reduction is so incredible, and I cannot believe they added it to this weapon's perk pool. With a backup mag equipped, this weapon will become very stable inside of PvP. For the final perk slot, there are quite a few options here as well, actually. For PvE, Demolitionist, Surrounded, and even Disruption Break are incredible on this weapon. Demolitionist for the increased grenade regen on mob kills, Surrounded for the extra damage when surrounded with enemies, and with a Surrounded spec mod, this can be increased even further. And finally, Disruption Break for those high-end activities like Nightfall ordeals. This perk, when coupled with the Anti-Barrier mod, allows for your weapon to break champion shields and make them more susceptible to kinetic damage. This, however, should be the final perk to go for, as Anti-Barrier is subject to change each season, as it might not be on SMGs next season, so the other two are much more reliable. Finally, for PvP, the only perks are Tap the Trigger and Vorpal Weapon. Tap the Trigger increasing the range of stability on initial trigger pull, whilst Vorpal really allows you to melt supers that are running straight at you. However, a good player won't let you do that, so keep that in mind. And the final weapon I will be covering today in this video is in the assassin-focused Umbral Engram, the Ikelos Sniper Rifle. With an incredible aesthetic and an amazing sound when you shoot, this weapon is a delight to use. However, it comes with some slight issues. It's a rapid-fire frame sniper rifle, so it can't double body in PvP, and it could be better in terms of DPS in PvE. The issue with these types of sniper rifles, and this one in particular, is its lack of range, and in Destiny, range equates to accuracy. So the best thing to do for this weapon would be to increase the range as much as possible. In the first column, you have perks such as full bore, small bore, extended barrel, and hammer forged rifling. I would recommend hammer forged, as it is a simple range increase of 10 without affecting any other stats. You may ask as to why not use full bore. Well, it has more range, yes, but it lowers stability, and for the rapid fires you need stability to be able to constantly fire those rapid shots. In the magazine column, this is very dependent upon what you wish to use the weapon for, PvE or PvP. For PvE, you really need to increase the mag size as much as possible, so a backup mag would be really good, and to even further extend the mag, use extended mag. Whilst this does lower the reload speed by 20 points, you shouldn't be reloading as much with the other PvE-oriented perks I will be discussing in a bit. For PvP, however, very much like the Ikelos SMG, you want either Seraph rounds or Accurized rounds for the increase in range. In the main perk column, it contains a plethora of perks. All are viable. For PvE, you have perks such as Triple Tap, 4th times the Charm, or Feeding Frenzy, which I don't recommend. For PvE, I would recommend, though, 4th times the Charm, as rapidly landing precision hits will return 2 bullets to the magazine. This, coupled with extended mag and a backup mag, I don't know what the cap on the magazine is, I apologise, will allow for a lot of bullets to be fired. For PvE, however, there are only 2 perks, and this is based on preference. Moving Target for increased movement speed and target acquisition whilst ADS, or No Distractions for less flinch and more stability with ADS. Of these 2, I would say, choose what you want. Moving Target can throw a lot of people off as it increases ADS movement speed, and No Distractions can really slow down gameplay for some, as it requires constant ADSing of an angle or lane. In the final slot, I only recommend 2 options. High Impact Reserves for PvE, which increases the damage this gun deals at the bottom half of the magazine. This paired with extended mag and 4th times the Charm, or Triple Tap, can increase the DPS by quite a bit at the bottom half of the mag. For PvP, the only good option here is Quick Draw. Unfortunately, this weapon cannot roll with Snapshot, but Quick Draw acts as a pseudo-snapshot of sorts, and coupled with a targeting mod on your helmets and high base handling, it should feel quite snappy. Thank you so much for watching my first video today. It's going to take me a while to get used to making videos again, so please leave any comments below on how can I improve these videos and make them more engaging for you to watch.